and it's probably just going to get worse. And he's probably just going to get better at it and get more deeply entwined into this like underbelly world. It's gonna the real tension is gonna be that his character is also developing, and he's actually becoming a better man to his family and his kids and his sister and his parents. But I feel like in the next season, it's gonna be the same thing of like the distance between the mask and the person you are. And the mask is, I've got like a great family again, and this better man, this better guy, and I'm also getting deeper into the like criminal underworld here, and that's gonna be the tension in the show moving forward.
The season finale is here. Your Friends and Neighbors, episode 9. Everything becomes symbol and irony. Does everything become symbol and irony?
Yeah, it does. I think Kierkegaard said, was it Kierkegaard said life can only be understood in reverse?
Yeah, it must be lived forwards, but it can only be understood backwards.
Yeah, that's symbol and irony, because ultimately we're punished by our own actions, and that is the case in this episode.
This episode has a good mix of plot lines once again. And I thought they were going to skip through or speed through some of it, but they really don't. They do a pretty good job of just kind of sitting with it, slowing down and saying, we're going to tie up some loose ends. Maybe not every loose end, but at least enough. What were you expecting in the finale before you sat down to watch it?
I was expecting Coop to come clean to someone about his thievery. I was expecting his voiceover to be that coming clean, so that there was a narrative reason for the voiceover other than just like it was a plot device.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to suffer some more consequences.
Don't we all?
Yeah, I think those are my expectations.
I think I really wanted to have a come to Jesus moment of like, bear it all out and say, you know what, I've been an asshole. Here's my plan to change. Or for him to really deepen on his thievery, mischievery, and crime, right? And we kind of get a little bit of that by the end. I think knowing that they didn't know, knowing that it wasn't already greenlit for season 2 when the episodes came out or when they were fully finished with production, speaks to they were leaving it a little up in the air, like every show does now, of like, well, we don't know what's going to happen next season.
Yeah.
I think it's frustrating that we have to keep doing that, but I understand. Whatever. Did you ever watch Last Man on Earth?
Yeah.
They didn't know that they were going to have a next season, and they kind of left it quite on a cliffhanger of just like, okay, give us the next season, then it just stopped. I was okay with that. Like, even though it's unsettling as an audience, at least it shows the writers were like betting on their own show.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a cop out at the end here, but
Yeah.
okay, for the best. Allie needs her medication. We're going to start there. Poor gal, bipolar and otherwise. She's
Oh,
not
yeah.
taking her meds. She's at the dinner table, and I think it's kind of beautiful how blunt she is, where she's like, since we're all here, let's talk about it. Coop's fucking Sam, this and this, I'm having sex with my ex-fiance, and I'm off my meds so I can come. Whoa, like that's just a lot at once. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's like it feels like Allie, I'm trying not to like be too meta and think like a writer. It feels like Allie is a convenient character to have, because she will just say the thing that needs to be said so that we can get the plot moving. Because otherwise the characters at the table won't say a damn thing.
Nope.
And so you need a character who's gonna like be the trigger that's gonna just like push the plot forward just a little bit, and that's Allie.
Yeah, I feel like in some shows, especially in like the early aughts, it was the old guy. It was Arthur in King of Queens, Ben Stiller's dead. It was Raymond Romano's father, whatever. It was always the old guy who would just say it like flat out, like, "What are you scared of having sex with a woman? What are you scared of getting a new job?" And you're like, "Oh, guy, old man." And instead, it's like, no, younger sister who's a little bipolar and is not on her meds is just gonna spill the beans. Okay, at least we've talked about it. So yeah, good point there. And they go to her concert. I'm like, Coop made the family dinner and they're all ready to leave it. That's a little sad. Okay. Off to the concert. I think her song's fun at first. I'm like, oh, I want to be the girl with the most cake. Okay, interesting. And then she's yelling and screaming like some 90s Evanescence girl before she pauses to just go off. And I don't know about you, especially living in Provo, going to so many small concerts and venues. That happened so damn much, and I hated it. It made me
Really?
cringe with every fiber of my being. The fact that a performer would just pause and be like, you know what, so this is where that song came from. It's like, no, 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 no one cares.
Yeah.
Finish the song and tell us afterwards. Even then, you're not
Yeah.
an orator. Nobody cares. And she gets the whole crowd to get in on it and chant "Fuck Bruce."
Yeah.
So fuck Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's certainly a moment where like I don't go to shows or concerts a lot, and so I don't, get exposed to that. But like, not just the fuck Bruce thing, but like if I was Coop and sitting there and like my sister was on stage and just kind of having a little bit of a rant about how great she thinks I am, I'd just be like, "Hey, look, guys, I don't know her."
Yep.
But Coop just sits there and he takes it really well, and it's true. Like I think the relationship between Coop and Allie is one where it shows the Coop is actually a good guy. He has the capacity to be a good dude, and it's kind of like the foundation that just so that we as an audience just can like know that he's not all. I mean, he's a lot of of a
Yeah.
douchebag, but that he's got a core in him that's actually a really good guy, and so I think that's really good that they kind of like keep going back to that.
Well, and at least for us, there's a moment of kind of like, if you want to be callous, you're like, send her off. You know what I mean? Like, put her in an apartment somewhere in the city away from this ex fiance, get her away from the fire she keeps going back to. And yet Coop doesn't. And he's like, you sleep in my bed tonight. Which is sweet, like you're saying. It's sweet to see that he's not just the callous rich guy who's stealing stuff from his neighbors' houses. He does have a heart. He is a caring brother. And you know what? She calls it out in the concert, which is nice. Where she's like, I wish you guys all had a brother like I have who takes care of you and watches out for you. And he needs someone who's watching out for him and has his back. And it's like, oh, that's a sweet moment. And especially for the kids to be there, sweet for them to
Yeah,
see it as well.
yeah, it is.
After the concert, not too long afterwards, Coop confronts Elena. I think it's oddly a silly moment, a little bit. I don't know how I feel about it. He shows up downtown. Again, I'm like, where? How long is this train? How are you getting there when she's getting home? Whatever.
Poof,
Plot be
poof, they're
damned.
there.
Poof, they're there. And he breaks into her apartment's complex's entryway. She walks in and locks the door, and he busts him with his shoulder just to talk to her. And I'm like, unnecessary? Yeah, it's funny, I guess. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
But he does wrap her into one more plot and plan, which is he needs to get into Paul's house, Sam's house. He needs to find evidence because he's just talked to his lawyer, and his lawyer said, plea deal is all you got. You don't have enough to go on. After they found out that the cell phone records that Sam has shared is not the same phone he's been texting, she's got a burner phone. So he really is in a stressful moment of, gotta find the phone, gotta prove myself innocent. Elena, you have to come back and help me out.
Yeah. I thought that was a clever little plot device, especially because they've spent the last like 2 or 3 episodes essentially showing us that Coop's in a no-win situation. There's just
Yeah.
no way out, and then so we just kind of get a little crack of light right here, where it's like things aren't maybe exactly what they seem. And then you also juxtapose this with the detectives getting reports back on something that we don't really get quite yet. But then you finally like I feel like throughout the season, if the writers were confused about what the A plot was, Coop's breaking into things and
Mhm.
being a criminal was a plot line that was featured pretty heavily in the beginning and then kind of has taken a little bit of a back step right here. We
Yeah.
get to like send it off with a bang, which is like Elena and Coop doing the thing that they're good at, which is breaking into a house and getting the valuable thing. And of course, it's Elena who finds it
Yeah.
because she's good at what she does, and Coop is just there. Yeah, and then they find a letter. They find a letter.
Now, I don't love plot conveniences. I just got to be honest. I don't know who does,
Yeah,
but I
writers do.
will. I will say this: the writers do. There's just a few too many things that were overly convenient. Of like, okay, Paul was in her house while she was gone to Boston, pre-wrote this letter, who knows when, has the gun in his bathrobe, calls her multiple times on FaceTime, then she picks up. I'm like, hold on. If she doesn't answer the first two times, you're just blowing your brains out, right? Like you're not who's waiting to be answered to do this? I don't know.
To do this live. He says,
But
fuck it, we're doing it live.
but then he's holding the note as he's blowing his brains out. Wait, what? The note's not on a countertop, nothing. And then hits the ground. And I don't know who's been there for well, we can't say that word. Who's been there when a gun has gone off on someone's forehead. It's just not like clean, you know? It's not simple of like, here comes the cornstarch blood rippling on the ground and now it's done. There's stuff everywhere. And for the note to have one little interior corner with just a little bit of blood, I'm like,
Yeah.
that would be soaked slash where did he put it down as he fell on I'm just lost.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that because when I was watching, I was like, "That's a lot of blood.
Yeah.
That's a huge pool of blood," which makes sense. But then I'm like, "No, I feel like there'd be spray.
There'd be a lot of spray.
There'd be a lot of spray, and to get all of that cleaned up would be more than what a normal person would be able to do."
Ready? There are TV shows and movies about cleanup crews that are just showing you how long it takes. Like,
Yeah.
I just think that when you have the crew in John Wick come to clean up, there's like 4 or 5 guys, right? And it takes them a whole evening to get this done. The fact that Sam, the Bostonian waitress turned housewife turned ex-wife turned cleanup crew, puts on her yellow latex gloves and goes, "I got this with the power of Clorox." That's too much.
You're right.
That's
Now that
corporate
I'm thinking about it,
advertising.
that's fridge logic. That's like when I'm watching it in the middle of it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm locked in. I'm locked in on this." But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, "Yeah, that wouldn't happen like that. No, because okay, so like we've kind of talked about it, but essentially what happened was Paul killed himself.
Paul killed himself.
Killed himself. He had a suicide note. He did it on FaceTime with Sam because Sam was like, "We're not going to get back together." And then Sam's like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" So then I'm doing what Sam does in the show
Yeah.
right now, currently. So we're going to get Sam's version of this after we get my version of it. And then she runs home and is like, "Oh no, what do I do?" And then she's like, oh, she almost calls 911, but then she's like, "I'm not going to do that," because she's like, "I need a life insurance policy." So she goes home, takes the gun, pops him 2 more times post-mortem, and then stages it like a murder, and then frames Coop.
As one does.
As one does.
As one does. I will say quick thinking on her. And you know what?
Yeah.
People who are desperate do desperate things. And if they're smart about it or they think they're smart about it, they think they've gotten away with it. Fantastic. There's enough murder podcasts out there to prove that people are willing to do some pretty crazy things.
Yes.
I like at least that she didn't cower. She didn't sit back and do nothing. She could have called the cops and just whatever. But I like that she shows the character is written in a way in which she's like, "I'm not going back to being poor, destitute, and leaving this community. I want to be taken care of. I want this to be right." Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, fantastic. At least they keep her character honest. Now, I will say when Coop confronts her, which is in and of itself a fun but awkward scene. She walks in with shopping bags and he's just on the stairwell waiting. My mind is always going too far out of the movie where I'm like, how long has he been sitting there for? Like, what if he was using the restroom when she comes in, picking his nose? Like, what is okay? But he
Yeah.
finally confronts her and he's like, "Hey, found your murder note in the conveniently spotted special drawer that you kept the murder note in upstairs."
Like, who keeps that? Honestly, why would you keep
Who
that?
doesn't burn it? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
mementos, I think not.
No.
But he sits down and has a chat with her. And then we get something that's a little bit unexpected but fun, in which she gives a monologue of her own life. And I don't know how much we'll be able to share, but I do want to play it for everyone who's listening as a recap slash, if you haven't watched the episode yet, here's a teaser.
You were the hot girl in high school, but 6 years later you were a waitress because the stepping stone became a boulder. You start fucking your boss. Maybe you're looking for job security, or maybe you're just bored. Then one day he asks you to marry him. You didn't see that coming. But what you do see is a big, comfortable home, financial security, and a chance to finally quiet the voice in your head that never stops asking, what comes next? You move into an exclusive hamlet you've never heard of called Westmont Village. You're from South Boston. You don't know from villages. You meet the other wives and devote yourself to losing the last traces of your Southie accent and learning how to shop for torn jeans that cost more than a month's rent in your old apartment. For a while there, you have a family and friends and life feels complete. That voice in your head still speaks up from time to time, but it's nothing a little Xanax and Whispering Angel can't fix. And then, Paul, high on a dangerous brew of whiskey and antipsychotics, breaks into your house, the same house he moved out of to go fuck the waitress. And that's when your husband of 15 years blows his brains out on FaceTime. For the next 3 or 4 hours, you don't stop moving. Because you know if you do, you'll lose your nerve.
Said the title.
You said the titular line.
So here's the thing. I didn't love this.
No.
I loved the voiceover. I thought that was super fun. The whole, like, making Sam the bad guy, I didn't love because I didn't buy it. I think this whole narration of, oh, you were the hot girl and it was harder to become successful than you thought, so then you started fucking your boss, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's good, but
Believable.
I didn't buy that she was just going to frame Coop and send him to jail.
And I
like,
know it does
so much conniving
happen.
There's just malice in there that I just didn't see over the course of the season.
To your point, they didn't set her up as the desperate to stay in the nice community Bostonian girl very well.
Yeah.
It was a little out of nowhere / a little weak and thin. I'll say there's some listeners that have pointed out Madison really likes Olivia Munn as /Sam, and I'm like, at least they notice.
Hey,
but
God forbid a man have a crush.
God forbid a man have a crush. So there will be some who are like, oh my gosh, he'd defend her. No, but I do agree with you in that characterization was not fully there. We talked just a couple episodes. Who really killed Paul? Neither of us seemed to have a good answer to it. I didn't know. I thought maybe it was like his young girlfriend. Maybe there's something else going on there.
I thought it was a drug dealer or something. The plot didn't inform us at all that it could have been Sam. I mean, granted, she didn't kill him, but...
Yeah, exactly. That was the other side of it.
Like, she didn't kill him, but like nothing in the plot showed us that Sam had this in her.
I'm going to pull in another movie because I'm going to shit on it a little bit by discussing the plot and what's going on here.
Yeah.
Have you seen A Simple Favor?
No.
Or Another Simple Favor?
No.
You're not a skinny white girl who's
I
just
try to avoid watching Blake Lively on screen.
Thank God. So I just recently watched the second one.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. If your plot device in the first one is the person has a twin that you don't find out until 3/4 of the way through the movie, and you're like, oh my God, there's an exact twin. This is what's happening. And the plot of the sequel is, oh my God, they're actually triplets, and one of them was taken to Italy.
That's the plot?
You just can't do it, okay? That's just not a movie plot.
So
that's
the next
something
they're actually quadruplets.
That's your kid coming up with a plot while eating a bowl of Captain Crunch.
Holy
Sugar-induced plot armor.
Oh my gosh.
Similarly here, you can't have first episode, who murdered Paul? And the answer is Paul murdered Paul. Kind of. It's not satisfying, at least for me.
Yeah.
It's not a very satisfying end to be like, actually, he committed suicide because he loved her so much. And then she put 2 more shots into him, and no coroner really sat there and was like, angle, bullet, what? Execution style plus 2 more in the back? None of this works.
Yeah.
I understand these cops are like relaxed cops who don't do murder cases, but like, come on. What?
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, the detectives got the report that 2 of the bullet holes were post-mortem.
Yes.
Like, that stuff does show up in an autopsy.
Yep.
And so, like, at the very least, that was revealed. And that would have been an inconsistency that would have been revealed regardless of whether or not Coop and Elena had broken in to find the suicide note, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like setup and payoff is such an important part of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And this was supposed to be a big payoff. And there was no setup to Sam having this in her. And there's also no setup to Paul being this level of self-destructive and being this attached to Sam still.
He talks to her at some of the parties here or there, or like it gets a little heated. I want to say maybe Mel's birthday party or one of the others. There's a little tiny moment, but to your point, there's not enough breadcrumbs to find Hansel and Gretel. There's just not enough going on here to really dig in and say, I could have put this together. Because there's a few different ways you can, like, storytelling devices. There's a few different ways you could tell a story that let an audience feel like you've done a great job. There's telling them the end from the beginning and then them asking, how does it come to be? Ah, satisfying, which is what could have happened here. Or there's, we don't know what's happening, big surprise, how are we going to resolve it? Ah, resolution, Chekhov's gun, beautiful. We
Yeah.
have a weird mix of both, where it's like
Yeah.
Chekhov's gun shot itself. That's your resolution. What?
Yeah.
And by the way, this person that we're getting a lot of in the first 4 episodes, and we don't see much of the last 3, she's also somehow holding the gun. Okay, why? It
Yeah.
just,
It was a lot of convenience right here at
yeah,
the end. And
yeah,
like I can see how a writer's room cultivates and just creates a really great like interweaving story and is just unsure if they're going to get more, if they're going to be able to develop these plot lines further. And so they're just like trying to tie a bow on it really nicely at the end to try and like give you some satisfaction.
yep,
But I think what that results in is the fridge logic, which is like in the moment you're watching this, you're like, oh, I like this. But then, 2 hours later, when you're in the fridge trying to get your midnight snack, you're like, wait, huh?
why?
Why did that happen? Because like, I think the whole Sam's narration, so well done.
Hmm.
It deepens her characterization. I think I would have loved to gotten her deeper characterization earlier in the season.
Yeah,
And at the very least, I think what would have been more interesting is actually revealing that Sam hates these people.
yeah,
Sam comes from the real world, and here she is in this new world. And rather than just like suffering underneath the voice like everyone else and medicating herself with Xanax and alcohol or whatever, she actually really resents everything about this place. And then that serves as her motivation for like whatever she's doing, for like framing Coop and stuff, rather than just like, I can't have this luxury taken away from me. It's like, no, actually she hates Coop. She hates this whole thing and she thinks she's better than everyone there. And then she's going to frame Coop for it.
yeah. Because we have her in the makeup shop earlier, episode what, 5, 6?
Yeah.
But it's not enough. It's a one quick scene and we're past it. You're right.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a conversation with Coop of I don't fit in. She doesn't have a conversation with Coop of I'm just so happy to be safe here where I wasn't before. I'm just the girl from Boston. We don't get any of that.
Yeah.
And we don't even have like Coop teasing about it. Knowing no one in town is like, oh, the waitress girl came into a mansion. Ugh. There's just not much to prove it out. When she and Mel are doing
Yeah.
the wine and martial arts night, we don't have any like conflict there. There's no pushing
Yeah.
about I'm not like you. I don't fit
Yeah.
in. And so yeah, by the time we get her narration, it's like, where was this? Why was this? Is this supposed to be a surprise to everyone, including Coop? I don't know. Like it doesn't land.
They made her too damn likable. We sympathize with her. I mean, not that
It's true, yeah.
not that it's not good for us to like her, but they made us like her in a way that like we wanted to root for her.
Yeah.
And then when you want to root for a character and you want them to succeed and like get their stuff, and then you make them somehow the architect of their own. I mean, I guess that is a way that is a way of telling a story, but
Yeah.
you got to massage it better or something. I don't know, like
Yeah, it points to the question again of do we need more episodes? Do we need more lead time? What's the disconnect here? And for the writers, if anyone's listening to this, well done on a good show. At the same time,
absolutely,
what are we
it was
doing
very
here?
enjoyable to
Like
watch.
it's really enjoyable. I know a lot of people I've talked to that have been watching it. Some like it more than others. Some are a little bit more bored by it. I understand not every story grips everybody. That's fine. It's a good show. This is like a critique on a good show where it could have been great at this
Yeah,
last moment. And I think the way the rest of the episode pays out, which is like Sam gets arrested, we get her getting a mugshot, Coop's giving a very long
it's a
voiceover.
beautiful mugshot, by the way.
Beautiful
Just so that
mugshot.
everyone, just so that I stay consistent.
And she's tall. I was like, oh, 5'9". Okay, okay. I'm watching the
See?
inches in the back. I was like, all right, she's tall. A lot going on with this voiceover before we get Coop as the belle of the ball for this charity event. I know we skipped over it earlier, but Jack and the other partner for his old firm have asked him back. They're willing to meet his demands. If he hops on this plane at 11 p.m. and goes to Switzerland to convince this Swiss team to stay with the firm, he says, yeah, I'll be there, or I'll think about it, whatever. There's a lot of other moving pieces. We see Nick away from Mel, being nice to her and saying, hey, I've had my time, but also We're not together right now. Move on. I just felt, at least in the moment, I'm like, this is too much of a bow. Too much of a bow that we literally
Yeah.
end at the ball. It's
Yeah.
just a little Disney. I'm glad it doesn't
Yeah.
fully end there, but a little too
Yeah, I
much.
was thinking the same thing where I was like, okay, so not only did he get his job back, he got it back with more money. And then everyone is just enthralled by him now
Yeah.
because he was a murder suspect who turned out to not be a murder suspect. And then, oh, he's also getting his family back. And I was just like, is this seriously going to end like this? Like he hasn't learned anything. He
Yeah.
just like went through all of this stuff just to be placed right back to where he was at the beginning of the story. And I was like, I mean, okay, I was really bracing for it. I was bracing
Hmm.
for it.
I know, like, the only changes that I really thought were good were Coop and Mel talking, and he's like, well, what's next for you, Mel? She says, I think I'm going to fly solo for a while. And you see Coop kind of longingly go, oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. This moment of, he was really hoping, maybe after it all, that there's been some love shared and it would be, let's rekindle, let's get back, let's try it again. No, at least she has her, sticks to her guns and says,
Yeah.
fly solo for a minute. I like that his other rich ass friends are coming by to be like, "Hey man, I knew you were innocent." He's like, "I saw the pool. You were you put money on me being guilty." Okay,
Yeah.
like at least he calls him out. Barney, whatever. And then he leaves. And that, at least for me, was a nice snap to of Coop leaving, Jack and the team getting on the plane, getting ready, what to do, what to do, what to do. And he shows up at Jack's house. Did you recognize it was Jack's house?
No, I did not.
Okay. He got to Jack's house, and that was the moment that was like, oh, he got him. He's still the bad guy because he knows they're going to be on that plane at 11 and it's going to be an empty house. And he sees the painting there.
Oh, right. Yeah, because he was there at that meeting and he saw the painting.
Yep.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yep. I only think we saw Jack's house like once or twice before this. But I know in
yeah.
the episode, we see Jack getting ready and leaving that house, and I recognize the architecture. So when Coop pulls back up, you're like, oh, well done. He's tricked the boss one more time. He's really got to get him this time.
Hmm.
Allie spray paints "fuck you" or "fuck Bruce" on the garage door. You know, once again, our interesting bipolar plot line is doing
Hmm.
its thing.
Okay, I thought because she was at the gala too, right?
Yeah.
And she was there. She was talking to Mel or something, and one of the kids must have said like, "Yeah, fuck Bruce," and then she just like stopped and was like, "Yeah, fuck Bruce." I thought she was gonna go kill him.
You
I
know,
thought I thought that's what we're gonna do to end the season is like we're gonna create even more shit and be like, actually no, there's no cute bow on this. She's gonna go kill this guy.
Allie is our Jesse Pinkman if we're talking Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah,
But she hasn't, maybe it's just the first season, she hasn't fully gone over the edge to that level of like, break something. She spray
yeah,
paints and she's going to break up the family maybe a little bit or whatever. And maybe we're going to see this ex fiance, Bruce, go crazy on his end. I don't know. But it was interesting that it was like, just spray paint? Okay, and it was cute that she walking away smiling, like almost like a Breakfast Club moment, you know? I
yeah.
expected her to put her hand in the air and for it to pause, like, okay, I
Yeah.
get it. I don't know if that's what I would see as just desserts, but fine, do the
Oh.
thing. Fuck Bruce. I do wonder how it felt to you and other people take it that the show ends and we have, if you or anyone is seeking help or in a rough spot, go to apple.com/here to help. I was like, wait, what? Good, good on them, but a little like jarring for me at least.
I mean, was it just because there was depiction of suicide and like
I went
stuff
to the
going on?
website. Did you go to the website?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Oh, it's everything. Gambling, suicide, addiction, sexual abuse. Just they list off everything, and every single one of them links to an actual organization that helps. But it's just a whole page that I think it's good in some ways. I don't know why they waited till the final episode, or
Yeah,
maybe I
maybe
just
have it
didn't
at the
catch
end of
it.
every episode because every episode deals with gambling and drug abuse and actual abuse and suicide, like and like depression. Like have this at the end of every episode.
Yeah, Trump 2.0 America is weird because I don't know how that's going to go over. Not that the Apple TV Plus crowd and the Trump loving crowd is such a giant, Venn diagram that it's tons of spillover, at least in my eyes. I just wonder, yeah, why not every episode? Why not the beginning of some of the episodes?
I mean,
I don't know.
does it have anything to do with the fact that we're watching on a screener site? And maybe,
No, no, this will be what's on for everyone.
oh, okay. Then yeah. Yeah, why?
Why? Yeah.
Why?
And that's the way I checked. When the captions work for us on Screener side, I know it's the final version that's going out to public.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, interesting. And end of the season. End of the season, we've got at least a year, probably 2 years before the next one. Takeaways. What are you hoping for in season 2?
I'm hoping that this is a Breaking Bad sort of thing where
Oh.
Coop is going to become a better man, but a worse villain the entire time.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
like he's going to grow, but he is not going to stop doing his stealing and breaking and entering stuff. And it's probably just going to get worse. And he's probably just going to get better at it and get more deeply entwined into this like underbelly world. It's gonna the real tension is gonna be that his character is also developing and he's actually becoming a better man to his family and his kids and his sister and his parents, and that at some point the real like, because I think the through line of this season has been like there's a difference between the mask you show people and the person that you are. And you know ordinarily that's just because you got to keep up with the Joneses, you got to make sure you got the house, the scotch, the watches, blah blah blah. And I think they did a pretty good job like exploring that this season. But I feel like in the next season it's going to be the same thing of like the distance between the mask and the person you are. And the mask is like, I've got like a great family again, and I've like, am this better man, this better guy. And you can see how I'm, have evolved and grown in all these different ways in my life. And I'm also getting deeper into the like criminal underworld here. And that's gonna be the tension in the show moving forward.
Yeah, watching it, I couldn't help, and I know just because I love this so much, I couldn't help relating it to Jean Valjean in Les Mis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, is he the dark side of Jean Valjean of instead of, oh my gosh, I'm free from prison, I was stolen, then was given away the silver from the priest. Okay, I've gone on and made legitimate businesses, but I'm still apparently an outlaw, and I've become a better person. To the flip side of, I was in legitimate business, if you want to call
Finance, legitimate
finance
business.
legitimate business. I was in legitimate business, became an outlaw, and became a better person. It's interesting, at least I want to see, like you're saying, is it going to be he becomes a better person? Is it going to be the conflict of who he is for his family and who he is as the thief, butting up more and more and more until one side just has to totally break again? But I think it would be weird, at least in my eyes, of he's become such a better father in his little ways in this season to then go back down season 2 and become worse again. I doubt I'd see that, but
Yeah, like you got to wonder, is he going to become a Robin Hood figure? Like,
yeah.
is this money going to be strictly about himself, and so that he can keep keeping up with the Joneses, or is it going to be a thing where the plot line with Elena really deepens, and then he starts to see like, oh no, this entire way of life is actually corrupting me, and I need a taste. I need not just a taste, but I need a connection to more grounded living.
Because we saw how scared he got when he almost was going to go to prison, right? It was a moment of like, oh, Coop is vulnerable. Coop does not want to be in prison for 6 to 8 years. I'd love to see him in debt to Felix or with a gun against his head, and that to be the next motivation of what do you really care about now? I doubt that Felix lets Elena off just paying off Chivo's debt and nothing else. He's got to come back. There's got to be some other criminal organization. And I guess my other question is, does Coop now take this methodology he's got and move from his friends and neighbors to his boss and their friends, other hedge fund managers? Is he going to try to crawl up the ladder of more assholes and people he believes should be stolen from? I don't know.
And is he ever going to get that trunk fixed?
That fucking trunk.
Bro, that is not rocket science.
I mean, Chekhov's trunk, it was nice to see it kind of pay off when he gets in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, get it fixed. And ditch the Maserati. As a car guy myself,
Yeah, dude.
Maserati just shows someone doesn't know about cars and they're buying cars. You don't want to be driving
Just
them.
get a Subaru, dude.
Honestly, though,
Just
if Coop comes back next season in like an Outback, we'll be like, lesbian Coop is here. Let's go.
character growth. This guy's growing.
This guy is granola. Yeah. Well, I hope everyone gave this season a good watch and recommended it to other people who have not watched it yet. I did see on Variety and Hollywood Reporter, they talked about this one of the top shows out right now. The first season's doing great. It's got great word of mouth. We hope maybe the podcast has helped, or at least has helped our listeners to give it a try. Not perfect by any means, but a fun show, good entry on Apple TV Plus, and knowing there's a second season, you can get involved without being too scared about what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Until next week, where we're going to have a little teaser and then a couple interviews coming up with another podcast host, Will from the 1980s Now, as well as some discussions with filmmakers from the short film or from the indie feature Home Free. And then we'll talk to next month an F1 race engineer before the Formula One movie comes out. So, exciting things coming out. We'll tease a little more in a couple next episodes. And until then, watch good movies and TV.